Why Disney Star Wars doesn't feel like Star Wars. Like many of you, I watched Star Wars episodes 7 through 9 with disappointment. I was excited for the first one, and then I watched it, and then I said, well, that sucked. Maybe I'll find answers to my questions in episode 8. Nope, that didn't happen. Well, certainly it's all going to come together in the final episode. And then I remembered, this is the guy that made Lost. Hello, I'm Paulo Fabregas, a comic book author and artist. Please check out my books on Amazon. My latest series is on the Battle of Lepanto. Check it out. Links down below. Episodes 7 through 9 aren't only incoherent among themselves, they do not match thematically with the original trilogy and prequels. The theme of the original trilogy is this: the true power of the universe is spiritual in nature. We can be distracted by all of these technological achievements that we've reached, but these things are merely a cover for the spiritual forces that lie beneath. Moreover, spirituality is a double-edged sword. It can be used for good or evil. When you use spirituality to dominate others, you begin to lose your humanity and become more technological. The dark side masks itself in wires and metal. Emotionally, it is impulsive, a lack of control, a lack of discipline, a desire to have everything now, now, now. It kills your humanity. When spirituality is used for freedom, the less technological it becomes, and the more it relies on natural gifts like love, faith, and friendship. It is characterized by discipline, self-sacrifice, delayed gratification, and a flourishing of life. This comes from Vader himself. Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force. The Force is the true power of the universe. It is the energy that binds all things together. It can create life, in the case of Anakin. It can prophesy. It can guide fate and destiny. When you gain control over it, a person can manipulate matter, run faster, jump higher, use awesome swords, deflect blasts. Why? Because those who master it can feel the connection to everything. The more you feel, the more you can manipulate. The statement spoken by Vader contrasts the Death Star with his own mastery of the Force. He then exhibits his power by nearly suffocating a man, saying, "I find your lack of faith disturbing." Such a cool bad guy. Darth Vader himself is the essence of the theme. He is evil, but he is incredibly powerful in the Force. He's more machine now than man. Although he is spiritually powerful, it is hidden behind wires and lights and machinery. He's barely human, and his face evokes a human skull. He's going through a kind of death. The loss of humanity permeates the entire rogues gallery of Star Wars. And when finally Vader triumphs over his evil self, his humanity is finally revealed, and he says, "Tell your sister you were right. There was still some good in him." Then we have Luke's journey. The Force is strong with Luke, so strong that he even gets rid of his guidance computer and uses the Force to destroy the Death Star itself. In Empire, we see him gain more control and mastery over the Force. He finds his master Yoda in the middle of a jungle, again to highlight the more natural elements of the light side of the Force. But he disobeys his master Yoda and tries to save his friends. It's an impulsive, undisciplined move, and he pays the price with the loss of his hand. He discovers his strong, powerful connection to Darth Vader. We discover that Vader was once human enough to produce offspring. And what's horrific is that Luke truly discovers that he can become a Vader himself, hence the shouting of, "It's impossible!" We can also see the possibility of him becoming more Vader-like with the replacement of his robotic hand. What he had done put him at risk of losing his humanity, and he did a little. And finally, in return, we have all of these elements coming together: nature versus technology, the light side versus the dark side. And this is why even if the finale is split up between 3 battle sequences, they feel cohesive because George Lucas has clearly made the connection between the light side and nature and the dark side and technology. And you have a final victory on the forest moon of Endor versus the technological moon, the Death Star 2. Do these themes extend to the prequels? Yes, they do. It's a story of a descent into the dark side of the Force. The Jedi Order is enmeshed in the politics of the Republic on Coruscant, an entire planet that's a city. We're catching a culture at the height of their technological achievements, and perhaps they have lost their way, unable to recognize the evil that is growing amidst them. In The Phantom Menace, the good guys achieve victory with the help of the natural forces of Naboo against the droid army, while young Anakin uses the Force to achieve victory flying in a spaceship. A child being totally guided by the Force the way Luke was guided at the end of A New Hope. In fact, Phantom Menace is A New Hope and Return of the Jedi all rolled into one in terms of themes. This is the last homely kind of nature versus technology battle in the series. In the Attack of the Clones, it's the clone army that comes to Anakin's and Obi-Wan's rescue against the droid army. It's no longer nature versus nature. Something's going on here. In Episode 2, Anakin becomes a slave to his emotions, falls in love, revenges his mother's death on a village of sand people. Anakin loses his arm and a cybernetic one is attached, and we can see the dehumanizing effects of technology taking hold of him because of his actions. In Revenge of the Sith, the clones are now used primarily as the Force against the droid army. This is technology versus technology. It's the same thing controlled by the same person, Palpatine. So when the clones receive Order 66, they turn on their Jedi allies, and it feels right. We have General Grievous, who is more machine than man, a foreshadowing of things to come for Anakin. And Anakin himself falls deeper into his emotions and therefore the dark side. In an effort to save his wife's life, he kills the younglings, but then becomes madly paranoid, almost kills his pregnant wife, and fights against his best friend. He loses, and then we see him fully turn to the dark side, and we see how technology has taken over his body. He's more machine now than man. The prequels are not perfect by any means, and I do not love them the way I love 4, 5, and 6, but they are at least thematically coherent with the first one, so it feels like the same universe. It's saying the same thing in a different way. The true power of the universe is spiritual, and it is being told through the tale of technology versus nature. For episodes 7, 8, and 9, you don't have the same thematic consistency. In fact, I'm having difficulty even figuring out a single theme that strings any of the characters, symbols, and events together. Kylo Ren has an awesome mask and a cool sword, but he's not overtaken by technology the way his grandfather was. It's a masked surface. He hasn't paid a technological price for his turn to the dark side. Rey, unlike Luke, is never given the choice of using the Force versus using technology. In fact, she seems to be incredibly adept at both. She has this innate power, and she quickly defeats Kylo Ren, slashes him across the face with her lightsaber. But that's okay, it's just a flesh wound. Poe is an awesome pilot, the way Han Solo was, but I don't sense that conflict of trusting a hokey religion versus a good blaster by your side. Again, light side of the Force versus technology is absent. I don't know what Finn's story is about at all. A pity, because it would seem interesting that a stormtrooper would suddenly become Force sensitive, but it goes nowhere. And this is why Starkiller Base doesn't feel right, because it's a planet that they converted to a killing machine. They've taken nature and abused it to turn it into something evil. Perhaps it can fit, but it feels weak because usually the transition to technological terror is left for the characters, signifying their change into something less than human. It feels strange that it's attached to a planet. It's not thematically clean, and it feels like the writers just went, hey, in the original they had a moon, but the new ones will have a planet. And episode 8 was about killing the past and letting go, and not at all in the same thematic universe as the first one. Oh, and also, believe women. Side note, I hated this plot point because all of this could have been solved if Admiral What's-Her-Name just spoke to Poe. But no, Poe doesn't believe women, and that's his lesson. And episode 9 wasn't about anything. It was just a string of events tied together. Somehow, Palpatine returned. And what was Rey's journey here? What has she learned or sacrificed along the way? Nothing. Then you have this monstrosity of a battle sequence, one fleet against another fleet. Where's the nature versus technology aspect here, like with Endor and the Ewoks against the Empire? It's just big, but not thematically coherent with the originals. The original trilogy was about the spiritual power of the universe and how an improper use of it can make us less than human, while if we use it for good, we become even more coherent. That theme is still echoed in the prequels because, of course, George is still writing it and he knows what his story is about. 7 through 9 is a mess. They've taken the veneer of Star Wars, the icing with the Force and the music and the technology, but they did not penetrate deep enough to understand what Star Wars was about. They didn't capture the heart of what made Star Wars great, and because of that, they failed to capture ours. Thank you for listening. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe and ding that notification bell at the bottom.